Hey, what's going on, guys? It's St. Bree checking in, and I'm on the Dope Science Show with Science Stuff with Steph. Tune in, we talk about some dope stuff. All right? Peace.
Hello, welcome to the Dope Science Show with Stephanie Lowe, aka Science Stuff with Steph. Thank you for your ears and minds. I hope that the show sparks new ideas, new opportunities, and conversations. I want us to learn and grow. We are all curious, innovative, and experimental in our daily lives. We are all dope scientists. Hello, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I am sitting on my patio right now on vacation for the first time in a very long time. And I'm watching the sun come up and there's birds chirping in the background. Life is good. And I want everyone to try to hold on to something in your daily life that actually gives you a sense of happiness or comfort, and just appreciate that moment, because life is constantly changing, so you really have to appreciate when things are good, even if it's only for a second. I really work on living that way because I get anxious, I get depressed, I live sometimes through fear, and it's a constant battle. Today's guest is Mayde, and we talk about his life as an immigrant and why he pursued science as a career and then made the big jump to say, all right, no more. I'm not an engineer anymore. Now I'm an artist. And how can I still be an artist and still embrace and share my love for science? And he's been doing very well with merging those two worlds, because it's STEAM, which is I believe it's science, technology, education. No, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So he's doing it all, and that's something I want to encourage with every show. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Even if you can't sing like me, you go ahead and sing. All right? What else do we talk about? Blurdom. We love being blurds and nerds, and we talk about that and being a risk taker. Man, I'm trying to be a risk taker. I know I'm going to make some changes. I have been making changes, and I'm rambling. So I really hope you guys enjoy this show. Talk to you soon.
Let me breathe, let me grind, and explode. So I've seen things, I know things you don't. My hood, my block, it's a strange world, a cold world. So let me be me. Let me find my own voice. Let me wild out, never bow down. Let me pull up in a Rolls Royce. Let me say things that ain't PC. Let niggas see world change. So let me go alone. Let me go alone. I got haters on my side, I got money on my mind, plus 1,000 pounds of pressure. Why wouldn't it just coincide with the way things move around me? I can see it through my eye. If I make it out of this cold world, maybe time won't just fly. Maybe I could ride off in a jet, take a little weight off my steps. Every day more weight on my shoulders. Everybody wants a piece of my flesh. Only thing guaranteed here is death. Look in the mirror, thinking what's next. Until my soul escaped my chest, I'm still perplexed. So let me dream, let me grow, let me shine, let me get mine, let me take time to learn more than you teach. Cause I know that the world's big, it's so big. Let me breathe, let me grind, let me explode. I've seen things, I know things you don't. My hood, my block.
Hello. Welcome to the Dope Science Show. You guys, I'm so excited. I have a new nerd friend. And his name is, I found Greg, who was on the show like a couple of weeks ago talking about Get Out. he brought to my attention he had a nerd friend named Mayde, and I'm excited because he has super dope science videos, kind of like what I do, but I think maybe better. And I'm really excited that he's on the show. So just talk to a fellow nerd. Welcome to the show, Mayde.
What up?
Hey.
Yeah. And it's actually just Made, just Mayde, just Made, just straight up.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. See, this is why I can't introduce people.
You did just fine. That was a great introduction. I love being introduced as a nerd. That's great. I love it. Makes my day.
Can you tell the audience, who are you? What's your name? What's your little, how would you describe yourself?
All right. So Made is actually my stage name because I'm a hip hop artist. I'm also an actor. Background in civil engineering. So a little bit of jack of all trades. My full name is Maynard Okereke. I am from Seattle, Washington. I don't know if you got any cool followers. I'm from Seattle, Northwest area. Made by way of Seattle, Washington, by a bunch of other locations. I was born in Texas, spent some time overseas. I'm half Nigerian, half Cameroonian. So my dad's side is from Nigeria, my mom's side is from Cameroon. I was raised in Cameroon for about 6 years when I was younger. Came back to Texas and then ended up in Portland area and then to Seattle for school. So I've kind of made my way around the world a little bit. I am currently now in Los Angeles, California, and I've been out here for about 4 years now. Came out here to pursue some music opportunities as well as acting opportunities, entertainment in general, because that's kind of my wheelhouse. I love entertainment, love entertaining. I was working as an engineer when I was in Seattle. Worked as an engineer professionally for about 5 years before I made the complete 180 leap and headed the entertainment route out here in Los Angeles. And it's been cool since I've been out here. I've been able to find some good opportunities to integrate a little bit of my background in engineering and sciences to a lot of the entertainment stuff that I'm doing now, which has been awesome. So it feels good to be in a space where I could kind of use my full creativity to kind of express myself a little bit more, which has been great.
That's awesome. That was so wonderful, man. You got that out so eloquently. I have to say that because I was on another show and I was like, I'm going to have to work on this. It's a little harder than I thought.
No, I always tell people that like giving a spiel like that is always easier once you're really self-assured as far as what you're trying to do and what you're pursuing and what you're about, you know, because it wasn't always easy, you know, like before I used to have a hard time telling people like what I did or what I was about or what I enjoyed because I was always all over the place and I hadn't really found my passion per se, you know, and so I was kind of scattered a little bit, and so it was always kind of difficult giving a straightforward, open answer as far as what my direction was and everything. But now that I feel I have at least a good foundation and I know kind of where I'm going and what I'm pursuing and what opportunities I want to chase, you know, it's definitely easier to be open more about what it is that I do.
Definitely. I feel like you're absolutely right. It's like once you figure out a little bit more, it's easier to be more clear when you're describing yourself and what your goals are and what your focus is, and you're not like, I'm kind of like, and I think,
yep, exactly.
I'm still figuring it out, so it comes across. So I'm like, I've got to cut this down so I sound certain, even if I say little. I'm like, how? I'm like, how can I say this in 100? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's half the job. Is you gotta at least portray a level of confidence, to at least sell some people,
Exactly.
even if you're internally scattered, you gotta at least make it seem like you got your stuff together.
Right, exactly. I'm like, how can I say this in 140 characters? I'm like, I got this. It can be done. So I wanted to go back a little bit to what you're talking about when you were talking about that your family's from Africa and you grew up in Texas. Do you feel? I always like to get that perspective because I've grown up in the States my whole life, so it's always interesting to hear about what is your experience outside of the States. Do you see? What would you see was the biggest difference between your life in Africa versus living in Texas? I know that was a broad question, maybe just like the main thing that you could think of. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say kind of in general, because I mean, I was still pretty young when I came back to the States. You know, I was like 7 when I came back to the States, so I was still pretty young. So most of my growing up was here in the States. But I do know, like for sure, one thing that definitely was different that kind of shaped my mentality. You know, growing up in a third world country and being raised in a third world country, there's a level of appreciation and understanding about your background and where you come from and what's available to you and what's not available to you. So that when you come back here to the States, you definitely have a great understanding and a good foundation about yourself and life in general. And I think that's definitely helped me as far as, you know, my pursuits in education, because that was something that was always, you know, stressed upon from my parents. You know, it's like, you got to go to school, you got to do this, you got to do this, because they came out here with nothing, you know, and, you know, they're immigrants here to the country, and they had to make their way and find a way to get a level of success, you know. And so since I was here in the country, they wanted to make sure that I used all the full everything that was available to me here in the States that you can get overseas. You know, education is huge. Opportunities to make money and be successful and set yourself up for your future. You know, all that was definitely instilled into me at a young age. You know, and so that, I think that's kind of helped my hunger. You know, over the years for sure.
Do you think? So, did your parents support you when you said, "I want to be an artist"? Like, I don't want to be a civil engineer anymore.
It was actually pretty interesting because, you know, people always ask me about that actually, because especially with African parents, you know, the notion is, you know, growing up in an African household is, you know, everybody, you're expected to be a doctor, a lawyer, you know, like dentist, you know, you're an engineer, do a job, some great money, and that's kind of like the norm, you know. And so that was the route that I went towards, you know what I'm saying, when I went to school and I pursued engineering. I was like, okay, what's the toughest degree that I could put myself in that I still enjoy doing? And a lot of it was to, you know, make my parents happy, because that was the goal, you know, that was, you know, to put myself in a position where my parents could look at and be proud and be like, okay, we brought a child here to the States, and now I could brag about him to all my other Nigerian and Cameroon friends. And, you know, I got a doctor, I got a lawyer, whatever, you know. But I think what was special about my parents is they understood me and understood my passions and what I wanted to pursue. And all throughout middle school and high school and college, you know, I did great in school, and I was always level-headed and always kind of had my goals and everything set in mind. And I did what I wanted to do, and I went out there and I did get a degree in engineering, and I worked as an engineer. And I told them straight up, you know, this is my time now. Like, I've gone down this road, and there are things that I want to pursue that actually make me happy, that I'm passionate about, that don't have to deal with necessarily a profession like that. And, you know, they were completely open with me pursuing what I wanted to pursue, because I'd already gone that route. I'd already shown that I could be successful in doing whatever it is that I put my mind to. So they were fully supportive when I told them that I wanted to leave everything and come down to LA, and they just wanted me to be happy ultimately.
Oh, that's sweet. Because they saw he's got his head together. So if he goes after this, you know, he's going to be successful or be level-headed enough to, you know, he's going to be just fine.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly,
that's awesome.
exactly.
And what
And if
brought
all
you
else
to?
fails, and
Go ahead.
if all else fails, I could always, I always have an engineering background at the worst. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Like I could always,
Exactly.
like I could by default, I'm never gonna lose that. So, it'd be different if I left, if I finished high school or something, and then I was like, oh, I want to come down to LA and become an actor and do all these lofty dreams, but then I didn't have any foundation of anything to come back to. That might have been a little bit different, but they already
Right.
understood that I'd already done everything that I needed to do to set myself up for success. And it was, I was able to go out there and take a risk and do what I wanted to do.
That's awesome. My daughter, she wants to be an actress, and she's in theater, and she does things. And I'm like, you can do anything you want. You just gotta go and get like a law degree or something first, or like you just have to go get
Yeah.
something, science or some profession before. Not before. I was like,
Mhm.
you can go to school and act, but this has to happen. And so she's
Mhm.
like already knows.
Yeah. Right.
I was like, you need to be able to afford to go on auditions. You need to have money.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
know?
true. Like you got to plan. You got to plan for that stuff. And it's a lot of times people will go and pursue those things that they're passionate about, which is great. But you also have to, along the way, you have to have goals and you have to understand exactly how to navigate that process. So whether it's talking to other people that have gone that route or doing your research and figuring out exactly what I got to do to be able to survive while also so I want to do, you got to do it smart. you know.
Yeah, I think so. I think, just not doing it smart just lowers the level of anxiety. So you're better able to focus on your craft and like have your head in the game, And it's hard enough
Yeah.
being young, like so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
having, some sort of security helps. Um,
Mhm.
with that, do you find so do you have you always known like hip hop, like what the acting and performing was like your passion?
I feel like I have for sure. I think the only hesitation with me early on was not knowing if I could actually legitimately if that was something that I could actually legitimately pursue. Like I'd always kind of been a natural entertainer, like
Mhm.
I was always that loudmouth at class that was making noise and trying to be the center of attention all the time. And throughout middle school and high school, I was always performing and doing music and doing shows and different things like that. So like I'd always loved that attention, and I'd always loved putting myself out there and doing things. But I think
Uh-huh.
it took me a while to get to the point where I understood like, hey, there's opportunities that I could actually make a career out of doing these things I like doing. Before they always kind of seemed like hobbies and different things that were cool to do.
Mhm.
But it took a while for me to kind of get in that mind state of like, hey, I could actually make an honest living doing this work as well too. It wasn't just a hobby. It wasn't just something that I did that was fun. It was something that I could actually take to that next level and make something legitimate out of.
What was that turning point that made you realize that? Like, what was
Mhm.
that? You have that moment of clarity where you're like, you know what, this is gonna work.
Mhm.
You're like, this is
Well,
actually gonna like work if I focus.
yeah. Well, I think it was for me. It was definitely I was a little late bloomer on that end. It was so for me. It was definitely after college, after I'd started working professionally for a couple of years. My job and everything was great. I was making great money. I was making great living and everything. But it came to a point where I just found myself not happy about where I was and I'd always been doing, I'd always even throughout college and while I was pursuing my other endeavors and everything, I was still doing music. I was still doing random science stuff or just other acting opportunities. I was still doing them, but it was more so on the side. And so I felt like I was living these multiple lives because I put on these like three different faces, and different things that
Mhm.
I was doing. And I felt this like I felt this inner separation where I was like torn, between what I wanted to be and what I was and what I was doing on a day to day basis. And I came to realize that the job that I was doing on a day-to-day basis was great, but it wasn't satisfying me. It wasn't taking me to that next level, you know. And
Mhm.
I wanted to do something that I woke up every day and I was passionate about, and I wanted to wake up every day and do something that I actually loved doing and didn't feel like I was just doing it just because I was supposed to do it, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it came, so it got to that point where like I just wasn't happy with my day to day life, and it was a struggle waking up, going to work every day, and trying to find the energy and trying to have to slap myself and when I work and like
Yeah.
drag myself to my car to go to my job, and I was
It was
like, this isn't
becoming
life,
like
life is too short.
depression.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting super depressed, and I was like, "This isn't life. Like life is about taking it by the horns and going after what you love doing and having new experiences and finding out new things about yourself and about the world and traveling and all these other things." And I realized I wasn't doing that, and I didn't want to live a life with regrets. I wanted to at least be like, hey, I whatever opportunity that was out there that I thought about doing, I made an honest effort at pursuing. And if I failed, I failed. But at least I can always look back and say, hey, I made the risk. I put myself out there,
Exactly.
and saying, and something happened. But if I didn't, and I just kind of stuck with where I was, because I started seeing so many of my friends and everybody that had finished school and everything, and they're doing their jobs, and everybody was so miserable. And I was like talking to everybody and like, oh, I'm just going to work, just like work every day. It is what I do. And it came to a point where it was like I was like, this isn't cool. Like this is this shouldn't be what life
Right.
is about. You just wake up and you feel like you're a robot going through the motions. I wanted to be creative and I wanted to do something new every day and I wanted to make it my own, whatever it was that I was doing, and not feel like I was working for somebody. So
Right.
yeah, so I think for me that was the main turning point into realizing, hey, I could actually turn creative these creative tasks that I like doing, that I do on a regular basis, and actually pursue them and make it a full time deal.
That's so beautiful. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm still going through that struggle, but I had a similar turning point where I just felt, for me, it was just like an urge that I could not like control, where I had to create something and I had to feel, it made me feel alive, and learning something new and being creative like really started to feed something inside of me that I had like kind of like buried. And
Mhm.
see, it's just good to hear you talk about that, because it's like once you have that feeling and you start pursuing that passion, it's like you start enjoying life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's a goal. Like you want to enjoy life, like nothing is guaranteed in this life, and we've all had people that have been in situations where you lose family members or
Yeah.
tragic stuff happens, and you realize life is short and you can't take your days for granted. And the older you get, the faster time just starts flying. And I don't want to look back and feel like I just left my best years, let my best years go,
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. I think of that too, because I'm like, damn, I'm young. You got to do to
Mhm.
do things while you're young.
Yeah, right?
People do things,
Exactly.
and do
Mhm.
it till you die. Like, just do it.
Exactly.
Just like your
And it doesn't
song.
and it doesn't and yeah, and it doesn't matter how doesn't matter how dumb it sounds, as long as it sounds interesting and cool to you, like do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many things I've talked about doing that people have been like, why would you do that? That sounds whack. That sounds but they're not living my life, you know what I'm saying? Like if I
Right.
want to go live, like you see, especially when you watch these documentaries, you see people that are sure love to go and live in the jungle for years with their with their wife and their son and explore things, and they may not be making hella money, but they actually have a fruitful life. They're doing something that they feel is beneficial, whether it's for themselves or for the environment or whatever, what I'm saying, and they're passionate about doing it. And but somebody else might look at that and be like, oh, that's a horrible life. Like you sit and live in the jungle and you deal with all this BS all day,
Right.
but like to them that's the most enjoyable thing possible. And so you got to
Exactly.
make it yours and own
Yeah.
it.
Got to be in touch with yourself. You really
Mhm.
have to pay attention, and then you'll figure out what it is. Like, what is it you're missing, or what is that thing that's gonna, like, you know, grab you. For me, being creative and in science, and I chose science because I fell in love with science. And when I fell in love with science, I was just like, I have to know more about this, and
Mhm.
I just became obsessive about it and sharing it with people,
Yeah.
because every time I shared with someone I would get, like, a rush of endorphins, like, yes, I shared that, you
Mhm.
liked it, and when I want to do it again.
Yeah,
you know and learning something
Mhm.
new, is very rewarding, and it keeps me from being bored. And
Exactly.
so that's how I got into science.
I know chemistry. Baby, I know chemistry. Sometimes compounds bond, sometimes they lose energy. Sometimes they lose energy. But our nucleus is strong, yeah. So we'll cry and we'll fight. We'll mate, multiply. We'll evolve and we'll die. But that's Bio 101. Baby, study with me. You'll be okay with a B. You got a little homework and I got the pop quiz. I know it's not okay to cheat, but we've been working all week. I said, baby, you got, baby, you got, baby, you got what I want. You got exactly what I need. I know biology. Baby, you got, yeah, baby, you got what I want. You got exactly what I need. And I know biology. Yeah. I know biology. I know. Yeah. Hey, baby, you got exactly what I want. You got exactly what I need. And I know.
What brought you back to science? What made you connect your creativity with science? Was it because I'll let you fill it in, because I don't want to talk
Yeah.
for you.
Well, I don't know. It was like it wasn't even necessarily that like anything brought me back. I don't feel like I ever left it, because like if you talk to like any of my friends that I talk to on a regular basis, like I'm a nerd, but at the same time, like I always tell people there's you got this like kind of black nerd movement or whatever going on,
Yeah,
and that,
the
and it's like
blurs.
and it's this whole yeah, right, blurs all day. But it's like, but like before, there used to be like it used to be kind of a stereotype, like, oh, if you're a nerd, that means like you're not hip to other stuff, or like you're not cool, or you don't know about other things that are going on. But I consider myself pretty hip, what I'm saying? I consider myself pretty in touch
Yeah.
with what's going on with day to day, what I'm saying? I love, I'm a big fashion nut, what I'm saying? I love fashion. I love, what I'm saying? I love music, obviously. And I love different other elements of sociological things that are just going on, So I'm pretty in touch with things, but at the same time too, like I'm cool with being a nerd. What I'm saying? If I'm having conversations and I bring up random facts, or what I'm saying, or I just start spewing off random logic or math or whatever, that's just me being me. What I'm saying? I'm incorporating
Right.
other elements because that's just me. That's authentically who I am, and I don't have to hide that. I
Mhm.
don't have to feel like weird about it. And so like anybody
Yeah.
that knows me knows like, oh, that's Maynard, what I'm saying? That whenever I make analogies about stuff, I'll make crazy scientific analogies to things, what I'm saying? Like it may go over some people's heads. Some people be like, well, why would you think of that? So like you're such a nerd, but like that's just how my mind functions. That's just how I process things. And
Mhm.
so I don't feel like that ever like science itself ever left me. I think
Mhm.
as the older I got, I just found more ways to science to my day to day life and actually find ways to promote it and actually own it a little bit more.
Yeah. I know, and it's so awesome.
It's great. It's great
Yeah, it is
when you're able to
super
own
great.
it and make it. Yeah, it's a good feeling. Good
And
feeling.
weren't you
Yeah, I don't.
were you surprised by people's response to your science videos? Did you expect people to like them? Or
You
you
know
just
what? I
didn't?
I really I really didn't know. So like it was kind of funny. So like I have just for I guess everybody that's listening, since we're going in this topic, I have a show called Hip Hop Science. And I basically play this hip hop MD. It's a sketch comedy show basically where I take hip hop songs and I break them down scientifically. And I'm a big fan of like, different sketch comedy and stuff that, you can see it. You go on Instagram, you see everybody's got like sketches and different things like that, or YouTube sketches and videos that people make, and I've always been interested in that route. That for me, like I always like doing something that's different, that's not
Mhm.
typically explored. And so I wanted to do something that still was in that comedy vein where I could be able to shoot stuff and be able to produce uh, sketches and videos, but make it completely different. Do something that people aren't doing, that people aren't used to or don't normally see. And for me, like especially with music, my background in music, the music that I've made, I've always considered my music mood music, and like I write stuff that everybody that anybody could relate to, and at the same time, it's
Mhm.
not just dumbed down music. You're listening to it, and it's stuff that has good lyrical content, and that you could have a deeper affinity with. You know what I'm saying? It's not just popcorn music that you know what I'm saying, or whatever music that's just kind of BS that you might typically hear. Always wanted to make stuff that was different and unique, and that you could have a deeper attachment to. And so I've always wanted to do the same thing too with videos and comedy and different things I do. I wanted to make something that people could connect to and that people can relate to and also learn from. And
Mhm.
so the hip hop science actually came into fruition. I remember I was in my boy's place, waiting for him to get ready, and I was listening to some like Rick Ross song on the radio, and I can't remember the song exactly, but so they had some line talking about how he lived next to Oprah, and you always listen to hip hop songs, and rappers always making like crazy outlandish claims about money and women or whatever it is that they have. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes
Yeah.
you sit and listen, you're like, damn, do they really have that? You know what I'm saying? And so I was in that mindset where I was like, damn, does Rick Ross live next to Oprah? And
Right.
my crazy science mind kind of starts breaking down stuff like how would this be feasible? You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, how much money does Oprah make? Where does Oprah live? What's Rick Ross's net worth? Would he be able to financially afford a house somewhere where Oprah would be living? You know what I'm saying? So I started
Yeah,
going
you're like,
down.
let's investigate
Yeah,
this.
yeah, exactly. And I'm a super investigator. Like don't get me around Google or YouTube too long because I'll get myself into a crazy wormhole of just random knowledge. Like I'll just keep searching and
Me
searching, and
too.
then one thing will lead to another. You know what I'm saying? Before I know it, it's been hours, and it's like 4 in the morning, and I'm still browsing on Google or on YouTube, looking at random videos or whatever. But so like I like investigating stuff and figuring out, okay, does that actually make sense, and diving a little bit deeper into it. And so I dug deeper into it, and then I was like, this is a unique concept to actually take songs that you wouldn't normally listen to in an intellectual sense, stuff that you
Mhm.
listen to on the radio, whatever, that you normally dance to, and a lot of times you don't realize what they're saying. And so I wanted to highlight lyrics in songs as far as what artists are saying, take it like, oh, does this actually make sense? Is this actually feasible?
Exactly.
Is this something that can actually be done? And I thought that, and to me, my nerd sense, I was like, that's hilarious to me. You know what I'm saying? If I could take something so stupid and actually like dig deeper into it, I feel like if you're listening to people that normally listen to music anyway, they would listen to music, but at the same time, they'd have an opportunity to actually learn something from the songs that they're
Mhm.
listening to, rather than just listening to some dumb stuff and not getting empowered by it. At least listen to it and get
Right.
empowered by the humor in what I'm bringing out of the song. And so that was
Yeah,
kind of how
you'll
the hip
make them
hop
think for
science
a
idea
second.
formed. Yeah, yep. And I figured there'd be a market for that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I can't be the
Mhm.
only one that likes to investigate or learn about random
Exactly.
stuff. And so I figured,
Right.
hey, why wouldn't somebody want to learn about a random science song or a random song and see what the science is behind it and break it down. And I was a huge
Right.
Bill Nye the Science Guy fan, like growing up and everything like that. And everybody loves Bill Nye. Like you can't come across anybody that was like, oh, Bill Nye was dumb. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody to a certain level likes the sciences. As long as it's explained to them in a way that you can interpret and make sense. If it's over your head,
Yeah.
you're probably not gonna like connect with it. But if you make it relatable, whether it's like through science experiments or through like comedic stuff like Bill Nye was doing, then
Mhm.
then you actually have an appreciation for those sciences and you could actually learn something.
Yeah, I wish I liked Bill Nye the Science Guy when I was a kid. I don't. It was just
You
like
didn't like Bill Nye?
something was wrong. Something must have been wrong with me. Like, like
Yeah.
everyone's like, I loved him. I'm like, I love the concept. I got the concept when I was a kid. I just wasn't touched. I just was not like, his corniness was too much for me because I thought I was too cool for school. So like, my mind was not in the right place. You know, I appreciate him more now. I'm like, oh, he was a genius. I was the one who was just like, I thought it was kind of nerdy, and I didn't want to be nerdy. So like anything that seemed nerdy, I was like, I don't like that. You know, even though I was really a nerd, I just didn't want anyone to know.
Right. But see, that comes with owning. That comes with owning it and learning about yourself. Right. As the older you get, you know what I'm saying? Like you become, like, hey, this is me, and I'm cool with this being me. You know, like I didn't care back then. I didn't really care what people thought. You know, like I liked what I liked, and if it was nerdy and stupid, then it was nerdy and stupid. That's just what it was.
That's awesome. That's free, man. That's awesome. I wanted to make sure we talked about anything you wanted to talk about because I might forget. Like, do you have any projects you'd like to promote or anything else that you'd want to make sure you want to share with the audience?
Good question. Kind of all over the place. Well, I know some people will probably be looking into the Hip Hop Science Show, and as far as that goes, right now, I have a Hip Hop Science page on Facebook, which I update still pretty regularly because I usually just post like random science topics or different things that are going on in the science world, or random fun facts or different memes and stuff like that, or random ratchet videos that have to deal with some sort of science element. And then for a while on my Instagram page, my hip hop videos, they're really short form videos, mostly made for YouTube, and then a lot of it for Instagram that I was putting out on my pages regularly. But I haven't put any out for the past month and a half, 2 months, because my science show got picked up. I'm under a development deal right now with Lionsgate, and so we're dealing with some stuff going through as far as rights and kind of waiting for production to come together. And so the show is temporarily on a hiatus until the whole deal kind of gets figured out. But the goal is for that to get pushed onto Kevin Hart's new digital platform called LOL. And we'll hopefully, God willing, if everything comes together as it's intended to, we'll have a full show on that digital platform with the production budget and everything. So I'm going to be bringing some more deeper intellectual, better quality videos that will hopefully start develop a big buzz and get some more stuff out, get more content out there for viewers. So right now that's looking like maybe about a month or so away. And so once that gets going, then we'll be back on track. We'll be back on track with the science videos on that end. So that's huge. So awesome. That's a big thing that I got coming up.
Before you go to the next thing, wait. We need a moment of focus so that we can send you positive energy, so you can get everything you need just the way you want it from everyone who listens. Like,
nice.
Okay, now
I appreciate that. All right, I felt that in my core.
Yeah, you felt that through the phone, like boom. Yeah, seriously. Awesome. And now you can go on. I'm sorry.
So I got that coming up. As far as other endeavors outside of that, I'm always kind of doing production stuff. But I have a couple singles that are out right now on the music side, and looking to probably put out an EP project here in the next month or two. And so that should be coming out, and I have a music video that I'm going to be going into production with that'll hopefully be out in about a month. And so that should be big as well too, hopefully. So those are my two big things right now that I'm working on. And then as far as my acting entertainment side, it's I'm always auditioning and looking for the next big role. So that's kind of a consistent thing until I actually land a project. But in the meantime,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just kind of focusing on the creative side and focusing on the creative arts, and then doing a lot more writing and trying to get these hip hop science and this music project going.
Sounds like you're busy in all the things that matter. Something's gonna hit,
Hmm.
Something's gonna go.
Right.
And right now, blurs are hot. Science is hot. Everyone wants to change the narrative, including myself.
Hmm.
So I say,
Yep.
push and do you. People are gonna be
Hmm.
attracted to, um, what you bring to the new scope of science communication. So
Yeah.
awesome. I'm
Hmm.
excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm. Yeah, and before you leave, I wanted to. I found a few science articles, but I feel like, we'll see how
Yeah, let's
many I
talk
can
some
get
science.
through them.
Let's talk some
Yeah.
blurb stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure how many we can do, but I'll give you the
Hmm.
titles and then we'll talk about them. Okay, so the
Okay.
first one is called "This Timid Little Fish Escapes Predators by Injecting Them with Opioid-Laced Venom." So that's one.
Okay.
And then another option is "Spray on Memory Can Enable Bendable Digital Storage." And the last one is "Magnetic
Hmm.
Brain Stimulation Causes Weight Loss by Making Gut Bacteria Healthier."
Hmm.
Like those.
Wow. Those are three different science criterias over there, but all pretty interesting. I'm always a wildlife guy, so I'm always I always lean towards animal science. So let's go with the fish topic.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me, so are you in front of your computer too? I'm gonna
I
text,
can be, yeah.
'cause I was like, I can send you the link if you want to see the picture that I'm looking at.
Okay.
Okay,
Or I could just search it if you let me know what
oh yeah, okay,
it
go
is.
to sciencedaily.com
Okay.
and then type in, Fang Blennies. So Fang, and then Blenny, Blennies.
Mhm. Okay.
And then you should come up, Blennies.
Okay, Fang Blaney's. Let's see here.
And then it should come up 4 days ago. Yeah, it's the first one listed. This timid little fish. Here's a cool
Okay.
picture. Cool. So basically, what they're talking about is normally when you have venomous fish, they have big fangs that,
Mhm.
when they bite you, they cause severe pain. That's normally the case.
Mhm.
But for some reason,
Yeah.
this particular fish, they have the canine teeth. But when they bite you, it causes, you to feel super relaxed and disoriented, as if you were high on heroin, and it makes,
Mhm.
animals not chase them. And they think it could be because it causes a sudden drop in blood pressure, and so you kind of,
Mhm.
you just fall
Yeah.
apart. You're like,
Mhm.
I can't think clearly. I'm just gonna lay down.
Yeah.
And they thought that was super interesting because they didn't know that this existed, and
Yeah.
so and they were saying that they found it by chance. They didn't come in with any idea. They were just in the lab playing around with fish, and
Mhm.
they had the fish bite a mouse in the lab, and instead of the mouse being in pain, which they expected, it was just whatever and just lay down, it was relaxed.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. A
and
good.
and they thought it was really interesting because, I guess, predatory fish don't eat venomous fish, and so the whole ecosystem of fish, a lot of times they will mimic these venomous fish. So the
Mhm.
most weak fish, which happens to be poisonous, is actually affecting the whole ecosystem. So because they have the advantage of causing pain or death to, something that attacks it. The other fish evolved to look like them and act like it, as well.
Yeah.
And and so they thought that was just, something that was worth thinking about, considering how they were saying that the venomous systems are super sophisticated in how they actually function as far as how they evolved. And even though and it's, I guess, kind of amazing that something that looks so harmless and is so tiny is actually the most powerful player in the ecosystem, really, because they affect everyone.
Well, pick up the mimicry with the fish, because that's a big trend in the animal world. There are many species that use different forms of mimicry, for defensive purposes, mostly. Because there are different types of mimicry, like snakes do it. There's many snakes that have certain, patterns or whatever on their scales that mimic other venomous snakes, but they aren't actually venomous themselves. And then you have some like the defensive mimicries where animals will use certain colors to let predators know that they're poisonous. And sometimes they do that because they actually are poisonous, and then sometimes they take on those colors to trick or fool predators into thinking that they're poisonous. That's pretty typical, like butterflies and different insects as well too. This fish that you brought up is pretty interesting in a lot of ways, because fish are actually like really, really different when you really think about different elements. And fish have developed a lot of different characteristics and traits that a lot of other animal species necessarily haven't really picked up on. For example, there are a lot of fishes that could change their sex. A lot of them are asexual, and they could change their sex based on what's actually available to them in their surroundings and different things like that. So they can convert. What's funny, I actually had one hip-hop science video where I did a comparison about the fish, because there's a song talking about transgender. And I told him how, and the comedic bit was basically that Bruce Jenner isn't the only species to be transgender.
Right.
And so I compared other animal species, such as some fish that live in the tropics that are transgender as well and can change their sex depending on their ecosystems and different things like that. So that was kind of like the funny bit in that. But yeah, you're right. Normally venom for most species is used to, it's used for defense or used to, or if you're a predator, to use to kill your prey. But when it's usually used for defense, it's debilitating in a way that it would actually kill the other species. But yeah, this is pretty unique in the fact that it actually gives them a state of euphoria rather than death.
And I don't know if it's actually euphoria, but it at least gives them the same after effects of using heroin, which is not necessarily the good feeling. It's like the side effects of nausea and disoriented. So it's not, they didn't say high, but I guarantee you someone's going to try to get high with the Blenny fish. But they said it's really hard to get the venom out. It's so tiny. It was a really tedious thing. So it's not something that, it doesn't sound like they're hinting towards any sort of commercialization of new drugs from their venom or anything like that.
Right. Hey, you never know. They actually that could be exactly what they're doing. Especially
I would
question right. I always got a question when studies like this come out. Because this seems like a pretty new. Because I'm seeing a lot of articles written about it that have just recently come out. So it looks like this is a pretty new find in the animal world. And whenever they find things like this, there's the initial is to how can we reproduce this, or how is this used, or what is this equivalent to?
Right.
And so the first thing is going to go is they're going to start doing all this testing and finding drugs that are comparable to it, and drugs that have similar chemical buildup to what this venom is, and finding out other uses. Maybe there are other uses for these drugs that we're aware of that we didn't know about. or maybe there's chemical components that we could actually integrate to make certain drugs safer, or or more dangerous. So there's
Or maybe
definitely
they can
when
just
it's
like replicate the venom, like they're gonna go through everything that they could think of, possibly. Because why
hmm
wouldn't you? I mean,
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
way the world
You know,
works.
that's right. Because a lot of times,
You know?
that's how we find cures for a lot of stuff too, is by looking at these different chemicals that certain animals use and figuring out why we don't produce them and how they can be used in our bodies. And so there are a lot of drugs that have been made because of how they're used in different animal species. And so yeah, so
Exactly.
the side, like you have to take that, all that science into account, and see what opportunity there is to make, because the goal is to try to improve human life in by any way possible, right? And the easiest way to do that is to look at other and biological species that are out there and see how we can be comparable to them. You know, like
Mhm.
sounds like the start of a Marvel movie, like some mutant movie. That's kind of how they always start, right? Like, oh, some science experiment where they mix the venom of a fish with the leaping ability of some frog or whatever, and they create some super species. you know.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Um, one
mm-hmm,
more thing about the study, and then we'll sound super smart when we talk about it.
right.
Is what they said, another surprise from the study was the evidence suggested that blending fangs evolved before the venom. So they had the teeth before the venom, and usually it's the other way around. Usually venomous
Mm-hmm,
snakes and fish, they have the teeth before they evolve to create like the venom. So that was one more interesting thing. They don't know what any of this all really means, but it's
mm-hmm,
interesting to them. So that's one
mm-hmm.
thing. So
Yeah,
the
no,
thing,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty. Because like a lot of times that could just be evolutionary for different means. You could always look back at the evolution of a species like this. They could have. Some fish may have started out being predatory fish. And
Hmm.
over a long evolutionary period, they may have lost their predatory ways because of food sources or whatever was available to them, and
Oh.
transitioned
Hmm.
into a non-predatory fish, but still maintained some of the biological traits of their predatory ancestors. So that could
Mhm.
that could be a reason for still having fangs beforehand, before the venom. You know, yeah, there's a lot of very why that could be the case. As far as access to food or accessing food. I think there's one fish. I remember reading some story about one fish that had like teeth that looked like human teeth. And
Oh yeah, I've
like
heard of that.
like giant molars. You've probably seen some pictures of it before, and they talked about how they developed those teeth evolutionarily over time because of the food sources that they eat. They eat a lot. They ate a lot of bottom dwelling, like plant life. And in order to
Mhm.
access those plants, they needed molar type teeth in order to be able to chew them and shred them. So they didn't need
Mhm.
any actual canine or sharp teeth. They just needed teeth that were basically made for mulching, and that's kind of the human teeth have evolved to that way, where we have molars, unlike a lot of other animals, because we eat, we're technically omnivores, so we eat a lot of plants and different things like that. So our teeth have evolved to be able to grind down food rather than just biting and tearing and shearing. And so that's
Yeah.
definitely like an evolutionary trait that happens over time for sure too.
Isn't that so interesting? And that's how
Mm-hmm.
you can go down like the Google like wormhole and
Mm-hmm.
just like you're all, oh, and what about that? And what about that? That's what I do on
Right.
Science Daily and other like science journals. I'll be like, oh, and what is about
hmm
that?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. That's awesome.
Sweet.
That's pretty cool.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. It was super, super, super fun, and insightful and exciting and positive, and I appreciate your time. And
likewise. No, I definitely
before
appreciate.
you
I definitely
leave,
appreciate you reaching out to me. This has been awesome.
yes, thank you. And before you leave, I always have my guests pick the soundtrack for the show. So you have to give me 3 songs right now off the top of your head that you want to be the soundtrack for your show.
Ooh, that I want to be the soundtrack for my show. Could it be my own? Could it be my own songs? Could I use my own songs as soundtrack?
Yes.
I got plenty. I got plenty of songs. You just need 3. Okay. Well, very fitting. I have a track called Bio 101. That could be a good fit for the soundtrack for the show. I have another song that I just released called "Do It." That's my new single. It's a pretty high energy song. You know, that could be definitely a turn up anthem for sure. And then I'll probably say another good song that would be fitting for this. Probably my Study Abroad single that I released last year called Study Abroad. It's a pretty deep, introspective track. That'd be pretty fitting as well too.
Awesome. I'm excited. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't wait to edit it all in and put it all together. And you may not know, but you are also the intro for the next show. So the way it goes is you will introduce yourself, you will say you're on the Dope Science Show, and then you can ad-lib, or you can just say your name and you're on the Dope Science Show, whatever comes out.
Okay, so there's just going to be a little intro. There's going to be a little intro.
Yep, and you can take as many takes as you need.
All right. So you just need me to give you a sound bite? Is that all you need?
Yes. So it goes like, for example, I would say, I'm Science Steph with Steph, and I'm on the Dope Science Show, and I love this show, or whatever you want to say.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What's up, fellow nerds and blurs out there? This is Mayde, and you're listening to the Dope Science Show, where you're going to get the most introspective dope science news possible that will take your insight and your knowledge to the next level.
Awesome. That sounds really good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All day. No problem.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been awesome. Can't wait to check it out, and look forward to hearing some more stuff from you as well. And we're definitely going to have to find a way to collaborate on some cool science projects together.
Yes, for sure. It's a promise.
Yes, definitely. So cool.
Okay.
Hope you feel inspired. Take a risk, and with focus, positive expectations, I know you guys can do whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do, we can do it. Yes, we can. We can do it. Yes, we can. Peace. Talk to you soon.
Back up in the coop so fly. Niggas know that I'm that guy. Tell them, yeah. I used to be in the rafters high. Now I'm in the floor court side. Kobe. They all know my name in the streets. They all put my name on the lease. Now I got the keys. Walk around this town like a beast. Somebody better call the police. Right now. Do it for the city. Do it for the globe, nigga. Do it for the paper. Do it for the foes, nigga. Do it for the limelight. Do it for the cash right. Do it like you never did before. Do it for the high. Never for the low, nigga. Yeah. Bitch, don't kill my vibe. Please don't kill my vibe. Oh no. Looking at this Cali sky. I ain't never been this high. No way. My mama said dreams come true. So I'ma go do what it do. I roll with a few. We all run through. Cool, you're making it loose. Turn up. Y'all wanna be like me. Same way to see my TV. Born on E. Everybody cut it for your key. You better learn to box like Creed. Learn it to a T. And then you learn to read. Ain't nothing guaranteed. You better get a degree. Get it in the States. Or get it all overseas. I do it for family that ain't got nothing to eat. Yeah. This for the real go-getters, the real trendsetters, the real niggas is about that life. The real big dreamers, the real big timers, the real boss you never deny. The real star-studded, the real full button, the real niggas Versace fly. For every bride that ever spent loot, they said I couldn't get and they dropped tonight. Do it for the city, do it for the road, nigga.